Hello Warfighters, War is Hell. Welcome to a brand new episode of Top 5 Arma 3 Mods. For this episode, we're going to be looking at the top 5 maps. I'm really eager to show this to you because I feel like maps are a really important part of having a great Arma 3 experience. When you think about it, it really enhances the replayability of the game, just knowing that you can play in so many different types of environments, you're exploring new terrain and all of that. I think it helps out there. At the same time, those of you who have been on my channel know that I care a lot about Arma 3 story-based content. And just like with any story that you're trying to tell, whether it's a mission you're creating or a multiplayer milsim scenario, having the right setting matters. And so I care a lot about maps, and I keep a list of a number of different maps and what type of environment that they're in so I can pair the right map to the story that I'm trying to tell. In fact, I feel like that maps are so important that it was a recommendation that I made to Bohemia Interactive in a previous top 5 Arma video, taking a look at recommendations for Arma 4 by suggesting that they make an easy to use terrain generator, so that way it is not as much of a burden to make some of these fantastic maps that I'm going to be showing you in this video. Now, to let you know of a couple of parameters that I tried to operate within for this, because like I said, I care a lot about maps. I've got a list. It was actually really hard to come up with just 5 maps. So what I decided to do was to make sure that no DLC is required for these maps and that no 2 maps would be similar to one another. So basically what I'm saying is there's not going to be 2 desert maps in this episode. However, if that's something that you would want to see, where I go through like the top 5 desert maps or the top 5 snow maps in Arma 3, let me know in the comment section and I will put that down for a future episode. Anyway, with that introduction, knowing how important maps are, I hope you guys watch this all the way through. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to map number 5. Coming in at number 5, we've got the map Pecher. When you go ahead and load up the mod, you're going to find 3 different variations of the map. There is Pecher, Pecher Old, and Pecher Winter. So pretty self-explanatory about what the differences are. But when you load up the different variations of the map, the differences are also pretty obvious. But they all feature the same thing, which is in the center of the map, a large destroyed city, surprisingly, called Pecher. There's a number of reasons why I enjoy playing on this map, and I have to be really careful because with Pecher, as well as with all of the other maps that I'm going to go over in this video, I could basically do a 10-minute presentation on why these maps are awesome. However, I will say this about Pecher. The thing that stands out the most is the level of destruction in an urban environment that's reflected in this map is second to none. First off, when you take a look at the level of detail, it's fantastic. You go down just about any road, you're going to see destroyed civilian and military vehicles. You'll see trees that have been knocked down, trash and other debris in the road. But what really gives this map a unique look and feel is the number of destroyed buildings inside of the city. The majority of the buildings, not all of them, but a majority of the buildings are destroyed. And this really gives as good of a representation as you can in Arma 3 of what a destroyed urban environment would look and feel like. And I feel like we need to have more maps like this because as time goes on and people continue to urbanize, combat operations inside of an urban environment is just going to continue to increase. And having maps that reflect that, I think, are going to be really, really important. So I really have to give a lot of props here to the developer of the mod Argument for how this has been created, not just because of the look and feel, but also the level of detail. You can tell that with all of the iterations or variations of Pecher, it is very well done, and a lot of time went into making it what it is. There's a few different points on the map that for me stand out as being some really, really cool areas. For example, I do like the rail yard in the eastern or east-southeast portion of the map. Gives you a good opportunity to have some short and long-range engagements. There's also a large building in the middle of the map and a park that is nearby that is really amazing to try and fight your way through to get to the large building. I've done that in an objective in the past. And then you've also got this large hill that is on the northeastern part of the map, which I like having at least one objective here so that way you can get players up here and take a look out over the entire town. Like, it is really cool when you have a bunch of pillars of smoke and everything going on at the right time of day too. It's just a very, very unique experience. So if you're looking at a map that accurately represents the destruction that would exist in prolonged combat operations in a modern urban environment, I'd recommend taking a look at Pecher. I will say though, there are a couple drawbacks to this that I probably should let you know about. One, for some individuals, I've heard that performance can be an issue, and I think that's one of the things that makes it difficult to make these types of maps, is making sure you have the right performance. And sometimes AI pathing can be a problem for vehicles and infantry, but that I feel like can be overcome if you make your mission correctly or you have Zeus kind of do things right. Plus, in an urban situation where you have a whole bunch of rubble, your defenders are likely not going to be that mobile. And that's kind of how I've used the map, just making sure that I have AI in positions where they could snipe you at long range, or they'd be around the corner, hidden in the rubble or something like that, and a lot more stationary. So don't let that deter you from trying to use this map. Again, it is fantastic. I highly recommend using it. Coming in at number 4, we've got the map Chongo, which is part of the mod Angola Maps version 1.3 by Icebreaker. There are 2 maps inside of this mod. I'm only going to be talking about Chongo, except I guess I will say that the other map, Southeast Angola 1974, is also really, really good looking. But I do feel like of the 2 maps inside of that mod, Chongo is better, because the 1974 map, it is relatively flat, whereas Chongo has a lot of variations in terrain. With the 1974 map, you only have a few huts scattered around the map, but in Chongo, you have villages and towns that you can operate within. Some are completely destroyed, others are completely intact, so you have a lot more diversity at your fingertips as far as what the terrain can offer you, which again is why I'm going to be looking at Chongo. I definitely love what Icebreaker has done in creating at least what I think is the look and feel of Africa. So just about any African type of scenario that you would want to take a look at, I highly recommend looking at Chongo to try and fill that gap for you. At the same time, I really, really wish that there were more maps about Africa. There really aren't that much at all, which surprises me given how important African affairs is starting to become for the West, and also China, as they're going to be competing for influence and the resources of Africa a lot more than they have in the past. But if there are additional African maps that are made, Chongo here by Icebreaker needs to be the standard by which everybody compares themselves to. I just love what it offers you. Like, there's even this one small area, I guess it's like a dried up riverbed or something like that, that you can use to move around in different parts of the map and stay within defilade, and AI can't see you. I mean, obviously, if you're doing this with AI, it's not going to work nearly as well as with players, but it's still just, you know, those types of little things that make this map awesome. As far as performance goes, the experiences that I have had on Chongo have been really, really good. I haven't done anything on a really, really large scale, so I can't say how performance is when you have a lot of people on, but for the smaller operations that I've been a part of, I really experienced no problem at all, so I wouldn't be too concerned with performance. In fact, Icebreaker does do a really good job with making maps, so I have a lot of confidence that it is written well and that AI pathing isn't that much of a problem. Yes, I recall seeing a few things in the past, but I attribute that to Arma and not necessarily this map. So again, if you're looking for something that is going to give you a good African look and feel for your type of scenario, I highly recommend taking a look at Chongo inside of the mod Angola Maps version 1.3. Coming in at number 3, we've got the map Fapovo Island, which is also by Icebreaker. And if you guys haven't noticed yet, I love Icebreaker's work. This is a map I really try as much as possible to do operations on because I just love the way that this map has been constructed. There's a lot of unique things about this map that make it a fantastic experience to play on. For example, when you open up Fapovo Island, you're going to see there's a number of different islands, but the use of water on the largest island I think is really fantastic. You've got a large river that kind of goes through it. It winds throughout the map, goes into some different areas, which creates not only a really cool experience, it's really beautiful actually to see during the right time of day, but it creates some opportunities to utilize bridges and checkpoints. You can use boats to an amazing degree here on this map. For example, one of the coolest parts of the map, at least for me, is if you go just a little bit south of the center point of the map, there's an area that's called Destroyed Dam. Pretty self-explanatory about what it is. You head up to one portion of the map. I think it's to the west of where it says destroy, or to the east of a flooded village, and you'll see a destroyed dam. And then obviously with that flooded village, it took place because the dam was destroyed. And it's really cool actually going through a boat in this area and seeing the town flooded. And I know this is not the only map that features something like that, but I just love the way that this is done, because you can follow down where the destroyed dam was. You can see a bridge that has been knocked out and everything. It's just that level of detail that I think is really great. The terrain is also awesome too when you factor in the kinds of hills that you see. There are some smaller hills, and then there are also some large hills that really dominate portions of the map. You've got roads that have to wind all around this terrain, which makes it cool as you're driving. You really never know what is very far out in front of you. You just have to be concerned, all right, what's around the bend? There's a good use of boulders and other large rocks in the map, not only to kind of feature certain areas, but also to show cliffs and whatnot. It's fantastic. Heck, even the woodlands, I think, is really well done by Icebreaker on this map, because as somebody who really likes fighting in woodland environments in Arma 3, I noticed that some woodland environments are so dense, and you've got a bunch of tall grass, foliage on the ground that really makes it difficult to do any type of combat there, because with AI lying down, you're not going to be able to spot them. But that's not the case here. There's also some good military checkpoints that are set up across the map. It kind of goes with the lore of it. So you're going to have some larger forward operating bases. You're going to have some smaller watchtowers everywhere. And then there's also some border crossings that are on the map, which I think is really cool. And I've used them in a couple stories. Like if you guys have seen the last Patreon event that I did, and then also the just ridiculous video where we were driving around in Tesla Cybertruck Technicals, we did it on this map. There's also some diversity in the type of terrain you're going to fight in. Like I said, you've got woodland types of environments, but then if you go to the northwestern part of the large island, you're going to see what almost seems like a more desert or arid type of environment. So you do have some diversity there. There are a couple urban environments on the map to be aware of that also allows for some diverse gameplay. For example, the northeastern part of the map, you have a city called Botana, which is near a airfield. And then if you go to the southern portions of the map, you're also going to come across some decently sized cities and towns as well. Same thing with some airfields down there. So as you're going through this particular map, you do have some diversity there, and heck, even some of these villages and towns you're going to find destroyed, others in perfect condition. So again, you even have some diversity from that point. There really isn't much to say as far as performance goes with this map. I've had really an overall positive experience. The one thing that I would say can be a problem, and I don't necessarily strike this up to Icebreaker, but just Arma 3 in general, is when you have bridges that you are operating on, it's obviously very difficult to get AI, if not impossible to have AI go across those bridges. So you have to be very careful in how you're designing that mission to ensure that if you do have AI movement, you have to be careful not to have them go over bridges. Otherwise, it's not going to work the way that you want. Again, not on Icebreaker, but I feel it's important to let you guys know if you are looking to make a mission or campaign on this map, you just might have to take that into consideration. But all in all, this is a fantastic map. Absolutely love it. I'm actually thinking about wanting to do another op on this soon, but you will not regret playing on Fapovo Island. Coming in at number 2, we've got the map RHSPKL. Please do not make me try to pronounce the PKL part, because you guys know I'm just going to slaughter it. But if you search RHSPKL, that's what you're going to find it under. And it is made by the Red Hammer Studios team. I think this is actually the first map that RHS had put out officially. But this is a jungle map, and it is representative of a territory in Southeast Asia near Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, according to the description of the map. And this is actually the map that we're using right now with Task Force Odin to represent a portion of Vietnam near the Chinese border. And this really does a great job at representing that part of the world. With it having a ton of jungles, you're going to have some really stressful times kind of going through the jungle. You might lose people around you. If you do come in contact with enemy, you're not going to know it until they're right up in front of you. So you do get that difficulty of fighting in a jungle environment. But there's just also other aspects of the terrain that I think are really, really cool too. For example, you have a large brown river that goes through the middle of the map that just screams, "Give me a gunboat," and start firing at enemy that are popping out of the trees near the shore. You've also got some rice paddies that you have to go through. The different towns and villages seem like that they would come right from that part of the world too. So it's fantastic with that look and feel. You've also got a number of military outposts that are around the map, ranging from large forward operating bases to just some smaller checkpoints. And I think that that really does give a good feel of it being a worn-torn area. At the same time, too, even some of the villages and towns that I were talking about also have some destruction in them as well. So again, it's really going with that look and feel of a war-torn portion of Southeastern Asia. Now, I will stress, as far as all the maps go, this is the one that I have seen the most amount of performance issues from, and it's really because of how dense some of the jungle is and just how much is placed on the map. Now, personally, I think that's a good thing if you've got a computer that can run it, but I know not everybody does. One of the biggest things that I've seen that have really, really helped in overcoming some of the performance issues on this map is reducing your view distance down to like 1,500 or 1,000 meters. Because honestly, if you're in a heavily jungle environment, you're not going to be able to see that far in front of you. And with the way that the terrain is on this map too, there's very few times that you are going to see past the 1.5 kilometers. But again, this is just a beautiful map. I mean, I even forgot to mention, this is one of the things that I love most about it when talking about detail, is a lot of the roads have water puddles on there. So as you're driving through the map, you'll see the sun glisten off of it, and it's really, really cool. So if you're looking for a jungle type of scenario, I definitely recommend taking a look at this map. Again, just be aware that you're going to have to do some stuff to make sure that you've got performance being where it needs to be, reducing the view distance, being aware of how many assets that you have on the map. But other than that, this is a map that I just absolutely love. I'm playing on it right now, and I'm just experiencing new portions of the map, and it just continually gets better. RHSPKL is a good map. Coming in at number 1, my all-time favorite map, Ruha by Tempa. At least for me, this map has everything I could ever want. In the Steam Workshop description for this map, it does say that it is based off of a real-world environment. I tend to like those maps more because I feel like nature can do a better job at making terrains than what the human imagination can. Not in every case, and I know that there have been other maps that I've reviewed that are kind of the same way, but I just wanted to point it out here on Ruha because I think that since it is based off of a real-world terrain, you've got just some fantastic environments that have been integrated here. It does also say in that same description that it has been heavily modified, and that's understandable. Obviously, we would want some human creativity kind of thrown into the mix here, but it is a territory that is based in Finland. Like I was saying, this map has everything that you could ever want. I think that what makes me enjoy this map more than any other one is the unique locations on this map. Really makes me want to explore the map in its entirety and go from location to location to see what Tempa has put together, because it is just absolutely amazing how diverse these locations are and how unique they are too. For example, you go to just the northeastern corner of the map. You go all the way up to the end, you're going to see a location where you've got a ton of rocks that you have to try and navigate through, a number of fatal funnels that would be, very difficult to do combat in. You go to the south of that, you've got a go-kart track. To the west, you've got a town with a stadium in it. I mean, that's just in a small portion of the map that you've got those different areas. You go way down to the south, you've got a hotel that's in the middle of the woods. That is amazing. You've got an airfield, you've got sawmills, farmland, just so many different things. But I think that while these different locations that are man-made are amazing to explore, and I definitely like doing it, there is so much outside of the man-made areas that make this map awesome too. I did mention with Fapovo that I love woodland type of environments, and Ruha, at least for me, has the best woodland environments that I've come across. because not only do you have that good balance with, you know, having enough foliage to understand that it is a forest, but not so much that AI can just hide behind everything. But I just love the rocks and the hills that are in the wooded areas. Like the hills is just absolutely amazing because it does make it difficult to move through the map. You have to be very strategic about how you're going from point A to point B. In a lot of woodland maps, especially when the territory is very flat, you can just basically draw a line and head that way. But here on Ruha, you basically have to navigate from point to point. You never want a skyline, for example, over one of these smaller hills and be engaged by enemy forces. At the same time, if you do come in contact with enemy, you have plenty of areas which you can go hide at and use the terrain to your advantage. So it's fantastic in that regard. The way that the diversified terrain is too on this map is great, because while I'm here talking about woodlands, as I explore the map, you have areas where there is swampland, you have farmland that is fantastic too. So you could have a situation where you're coming out of the woods and then you're using some of the ditches inside of the fields to continue to move with some cover while you're out there in the open. So it's just amazing how this has been put together. This is really the map that I like to go to when I have to make one-off missions. Like, you know, this is my first pick by far. There's a lot of cool areas too. Like there is a river that kind of goes through the middle of the map that is just absolutely amazing. It's really large in some areas, small in others. You've got a rail yard or a rail line that kind of goes through the middle of the map that I've been able to do some stuff like make a train wreck on. The amount of options that you have on this map is just fantastic. I've never had any performance issues with this particular map either, which makes it another favorite of mine. I mean, it is 8x8, so it's not the largest of the maps that are on here, but I think just the level of detail, the level of unique areas on the map and what you can do because of the natural terrain makes this just a fantastic map, and it is easily my favorite of all the maps that have been created for Arma so far, or at least the ones that I have experienced. Okay, so that is the list of my top 5 favorite maps. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Obviously, you guys have played a number of maps too, and I would be really curious to see what some of your top 5 maps are. So go ahead and put them in the comment section so you can share it with other people too. And who knows, you might have a map that I have not played before, and you know, maybe I go play on that map and it ends up being in the top 5. But again, with all the different maps that I've come across, it was really hard to come down with my own top 5. And if you want to see me kind of break it down a little bit more into like my top 5 woodland maps or my top 5 winter maps or something, go ahead and let me know, and I will work on putting some of those episodes together too. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you guys subscribe for more Arma 3 content, not just this type of stuff, but also milsim and other types of operations that I create. Big thanks to everybody at Patreon though for supporting me, allowing me to do stuff like this. If you want to support me in the same way that they do and have your name show up on the screen as well, just go ahead to the description below. You'll find a link to Patreon. That is the best way to support me. But anyway, thanks again for watching. War is hell. You don't have to worry because warfighters, I've got your 6.